Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We are at the start of July 2041. The Pirates 47 and 40, so a respectable season so far. We are 6 games back in the NL Central, but only half a game out of the wild card at this point. So ownership wants us to have a winning record this year, which we seem well on target for. We really want to be a playoff team. We've got a very good pitching staff. We've got one of the top offensive players in baseball with Isaiah Hill, who we just signed to a long-term deal. We probably can't afford to keep him through that contract. Still may end up having to trade him away at some point, but want to make the most of this pitching staff that is really good and Isaiah Hill while we've got all of them on board. Have made one trade earlier today since the end of our last episode. We had talked at the end of our last episode about the fact that Alex Gaines had not been incredibly productive for us. He's kind of a first base slash DH slash third baseman, batting just 200 this year. Not that exceptional defensively, and over the course of his career, he's kind of been an average-ish bat. So we traded him away to the Yankees. We got a catcher, Sergio Chavis, who's pretty solid defensively, not really a major league hitter. You can see he's been up with the Yankees the last 2 years and hit under 200 both seasons. We've got him down in AAA right now, but he does give us a little bit of insurance at the catcher position. Going to be 24 years old soon. Has 3 option years left, including this season. So I think we at least got something for him. And then what we ended up doing is we brought Jose Cuevas back up, who I think can hit a little better for us. Hopefully than the production we had been getting. He was on the team at the beginning of the season. Not a very good defensive player, but he does kind of have a professional-looking bat. He's got a little bit of speed, 25-year-old. Just interested in seeing what he can potentially do for us. He was very effective in his major league or his Pittsburgh debut for us earlier this season when he did hit 353 in a very small sample size before we sent him down. And he's continued to hit really well, even better in AAA, where he's batting 367. So the hope is that he'll be a utility infielder for us, part-time DH, and hopefully he can generate a little more offense for us than Gaines had been. And Juan Guerra, who we made an offer to as our international amateur free agent at the end of the last episode, prefers an offer from the Padres, so we'll see if there's anything else out there. The top prospect, Julio Castillo, still is out there. I'm guessing he's probably going to tell us to move on if we talk to him, but if we can put in a bid for him now as our fallback, certainly would. Sounds like we at least have a chance. Might as well submit the offer to him, see what he has to say. I doubt we're going to get him, but would be a nice win if we did, given that we kind of thought he was the best player out there, but wanted to go in a little bit of a direction with Guerra, thinking that we'd have no shot at Castillo, but we'll see what happens. And what do you know? Julio Castillo signed with us, so we thought he was the top prospect. We did prefer Guerra just because we liked his defensive versatility with a decent bat and decent speed, and we thought there would be more of a bidding war for Julio Castillo. But we will certainly take a durable player with a good work ethic who looks like a respectable corner outfielder, who also looks like he could have a pretty darn good bat and enough speed to leg out some extra base hits, even though he's a bit older for a international amateur free agent. Really happy to have him on board. We'll see what we can do with him. Actually, we might just move him right up to the DSL. He's almost 18 years old, and might as well just start cranking away and seeing what he can learn from our coaches. And a great week by the Pirates to start the month of July. You can see we picked up a couple against our former team in Kansas City, and then we won 3 out of 4 against Arizona as we head into the All-Star break here. So we're only 2 games behind in the division at this point. 8-2 over our last 10, made up some ground on the Cubs. St. Louis also playing very well also. But we would have the 3rd wild card if the season were to end today. So that is positive news. Pirates seem to be catching fire here as the weather's heating up. Let's find out how many All-Stars we've got. Only thing I know for sure is that Isaiah Hill will be an All-Star. Other than that, I would tend to think that we've got some chances with our pitching staff also. We'll see. Tony Santana on our pitching staff, finally a first-time All-Star, 8-4 record with a 3.12 ERA, 145 strikeouts in 121 innings. Good to see him get that honor. If you were looking closely, you can see that Hugo Macias, who we picked up as a free agent this past offseason, also an All-Star, a 1.26 ERA and 74 strikeouts over 50 innings pitched. So he has been exceptional for us as a middle reliever. Other than that, Luis Linares, our shortstop, having a nice year offensively. 304 batting average on the season, pretty solid defensive shortstop. Very productive offensively with 35 doubles through his first 87 games. So a really nice season for Linares, who we picked up in that trade with Kansas City about a year ago at this time. His arbitration number for next year continues to climb, but we will worry about that when we get to next year. Right now we are trying to piece together a team that can hopefully get into the playoffs for us. And then, not surprisingly, Isaiah Hill, who's having a 3rd straight monster year to begin his career, All-Star for the 3rd time, batting .319, 33 homers and 86 runs batted in through just 90 games that he's played. A off-the-charts 180 OPS plus, 174 WRC plus for the superstar right fielder from St. Johnsville, New York. So 4 All-Stars for the Pirates this year, and if the season were to end today, they would be back in the playoffs as a wild card. So things are going well. We have already done the 1 rise to ticket prices that we allow ourselves, and you can see we are still selling out most games recently. So we probably could have went a little higher, but hopefully if the team keeps winning, we'll at least keep selling out most games here in Pittsburgh over the course of the rest of the season. And we've made it to the beginning of the first-year player draft. The Pirates, after a disappointing 79-win year last season, are going to have the 13th pick in the draft this year. So be picking earlier than we did a season ago. Hopefully we can find someone that's going to be able to help us a few years down the line. We've been very big on picking outfielders in the first round. Our first 3 years of this playthrough. Would be nice to find something a little different at number 13 this year, but we'll take the best player available. And before we take a look and see what our head scout suggests we do here with the 13th pick, take a look at a couple of the top prospects. Jesus Soriano, right fielder, looks like he could be a big-time hitter. Not the best personality in the world, with low leadership, adaptability, work ethic, and intelligence, but certainly profiles as a left or right fielder with a pretty nice bat. Juan Castillo at shortstop. Like the glove, particularly the infield range. Not a perfect shortstop, but could certainly play the position, and he can also play 3rd or 2nd reasonably well at also potentially. Has a little bit of speed. Not the best hitting prospect I've ever seen. Best case scenario, he's an average-ish major league hitter. But with the fact that he can be a pretty good defender at probably 3 infield positions, someone to think about. Alex Cazares, center fielder, Not the best personality in the world again, but certainly looks like he could have a pretty solid major league bat. And then Jose Ortiz, catcher. Once again, not the greatest personality in the world, but at least he doesn't have a low work ethic. Looks like he could be a bit above average defensively and a close to average-ish offensive player if everything were to come together for him. So no one jumps off the page as a must pick at 13. We'll see what the pitchers look like. You can see that there's a few that certainly stand out, at least according to the star rankings. Alex Arroyo, starter. Ooh, this is the kind of pitcher that intrigues me. I'm not going to lie. High work ethic, high intelligence, high baseball IQ. He's older for a high school player, almost 19 years old, but good stamina, good holding runners, a potential 5-pitch arsenal, even 4 if that changeup doesn't develop, and 3 of them are already pretty far along. Could have plus stuff, plus movement, plus control. The bonus demand is high. I think that's a little bit over slot, I believe. Yeah, a little bit over slot, but not unmanageable. Certainly among the players that I've looked at here with you so far, Arroyo definitely stands out. But obviously we'll do my full due diligence before pulling the trigger. Danny Naheda, really nice profile. If that changeup doesn't develop, he's probably a reliever. So I don't know that you reach for a 21-year-old ground ball pitcher who's looking for a lot more money over Arroyo. Chris Ramirez, like his profile, looking for a lot of money. He's fragile. Don't like him as much as I like Arroyo. And then Jordan Norwood, like the fact that he's durable, looking for a lot of money. Movement and control, not quite at the same level as some of the other pitchers we've looked at, even though the stuff is kind of off the charts. Let's see what scouting director recommends. He recommends Jesus Soriano, the right fielder. He's got a nice bat. I don't love the lack of work ethic. Not great defensively. Not really a very good base runner or a good base stealer, even though his speed is average. I think I may be going a different direction. I'm certainly leaning towards Arroyo right now, but just going to take a look through the other prospects who may not be as high as far as the star ratings and may bring something more interesting to the table before I make a final decision. And I haven't found anyone who looks as interesting to me as Arroyo does. Those of you who have been watching me over the years probably saw this profile and were like, yep, this is who Old School's taken. He's a sucker for the pitchers, and I definitely am. Love the personality. He's got the stamina to be a good big-time starter. He's really good at holding runners. 4 or 5 pitch arsenal when all is said and done, leading to plus stuff, plus movement, plus control. A little old for a high school player, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I think with the 13th pick in the draft, a pitcher like Arroyo is pretty attractive. So we are going to go ahead and make Arroyo the newest member of the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. And looking at a few of the players who are available now here in the second round, you can see 4 pitchers who still kind of stand out in terms of the ratings. Leo Rojas could definitely end up as a reliever, unfortunately. Danny Ruvalcaba, another guy who's probably going to end up as a reliever. Alfredo Servin could end up as a reliever. Going to have to develop both that changeup and the cutter. I like the fact that he's durable, barely 18 years old. And then Amari Wiggins stands out a little bit, but clearly he's headed to the bullpen So none of them excite me all that much. Look at the batters who are still available and all the players who jump off the page in terms of their star ratings for whatever those are worth are gone. See what the scout recommends, but then we're going to dig in and do some real deep digging to see who we think makes sense. But scouting director recommends Servine, one of the starting pitchers we looked at. I do kind of like him the best of the four pitchers that we looked at. That said, he's going to have to develop that cutter to be major league average and also develop the changeup, which can just be so unpredictable to really be a starting pitcher that if we have to fall back to him, given his durability, his good work ethic, and the fact that he's only looking for slot, it's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly profiles as a pretty good reliever in a worst case scenario, but there may be someone more interesting out there. And I have found someone who, as much as I like Servine, and when I look through most players was kind of leaning that way, just found potentially a little bit of a diamond in the rough. Starting pitcher Xavier Wimberly potentially has a 6-pitch arsenal and potentially profiles, if everything comes together, is a back end of the rotation, solid kind of major league starter. But I'm honestly most intrigued by his potential batting ratings. Look like he can be a above average hitter who's got excellent speed. Doesn't profile as a incredible defensive player. He's going to be an outfielder, but certainly can handle his own in left or right. Would love the error rating to be higher. I do like the bat, though. I think he's the best bat left in the draft. And if it doesn't work out as a pitcher, maybe he becomes a hitter. Although it's honestly, if he doesn't work out as a hitter, maybe he becomes a pitcher, because I do, as I mentioned in the comments to some of you, I don't have two-way players enabled for this playthrough. I, in the past, especially when I've gotten into long saves, have on one occasion had a save crash out on me when I was messing around with a two-way player trying to sign him to an extension, and that has me scared of the size of this save and the length of this save, so I did turn two-way players off. He would certainly be a very interesting two-way player prospect, but we are going to go ahead and pick Wimberly with the thought that at least initially we're going to try to see if we can turn him into a really nice offensive player. If for some reason that doesn't work out, maybe he can become a pitcher down the line for us. But I feel like he's probably a 4th or 5th starter on a good team at the major league level. Whereas with those ratings and that running speed, with the good contact, very good gap power, and enough home run power, he could definitely be a very good offensive player as a starting outfielder in the major leagues. I just feel that his ceiling as a hitter is higher than his ceiling as a pitcher, which is why we'll see what Mr. Wimberly can do in the outfield for us after we pick him in the second round of this draft. And in the third round, Kevin Ario is suggesting we go with Carl Sand, left-handed pitching prospect out of high school in Jacksonville. We are actually going to go with another outfielder. Jeff Williams is intriguing to us. Pretty solid defensively, high work ethic, good speed, decent stealer, potentially in base runner, really good bunter. He's durable, and he profiles as someone who could have potentially a average-ish to maybe slightly above average-ish bat. He's going to have to, completely develop to be a solid major league player, but that high work ethic probably encourages the likelihood of that happening. So we are going to go with Williams here in the third round. And honestly, the amount of talent left in the draft at this point is pretty low. So unless something interesting happens, won't share all of the details. And our first round draft pick, Alex Arroyo, already got him signed, pitched a complete game, allowed 6 hits, 1 walk, struck out 8, 1 earned run in his first performance in rookie ball. So pretty impressive minor league debut by Alex Arroyo. And hopefully in 3 or 4 seasons, he'll be helping us at the major league level. And we're now on July 22nd, near the end of the month. You can see we're still 2 games back in the NL Central behind the Cubs. And we are holding on by just a half a game over the Padres and the Cardinals to the 3rd wild card spot. But we're only 1 game away from the 2nd wild card spot. So looks like it's going to be a great battle for the playoffs for these Pirates. Isaiah Hill still with 33 homers and 88 runs batted in, leading the National League, but he has definitely slowed down a bit this month. Batting average down to 301, so the chance of a triple crown is certainly low. Still 2nd in the NL in OPS, 3rd in batter WAR, but he's actually been going the wrong direction over the last couple of weeks when he hasn't been playing quite as well. But overall, it's been a good season for the Pirates. Taking a look with another 3 weeks of action into the team stats. 6th in the National League in runs scored and 6th in the National League in runs allowed. So both of those numbers kind of moving in the right direction. Our thought was if we are top 10 in runs scored, our pitching staff will be good enough that we'll make the playoffs. Certainly have had a strong winning percentage for 3 months in a row at this point. Obviously still have 8 or 9 games probably left in July before that number will be in the books, so still could go the wrong way if we get onto a long losing streak. But the team is playing well. It's just a matter of figuring out what, if anything, we want to do at the trade deadline. We do have a little bit of money to still take on some contracts. You can see attendance has kind of been struggling here the last couple of weeks, which isn't optimal, but it is what it is. Would be nice to get a little boost to fan interest. Hopefully if we play some winning baseball, that'll get the fans in Pittsburgh pretty excited in and of itself. But if there's a interesting player to bring on board who also happens to be popular with the fans, probably not the worst thing in the world. And you can see we are officially out of last place in both budget and player payroll at this point. 2nd to last in both of those categories. So if we keep playing this sim for about another 100 years, we'll be number 1 in everything by the pace of improvement that we've shown so far. All right. I think we're going for it. We don't have any huge holes on the team, but when you've got a team like the Pirates that who knows what our roster is going to look like next year, and you've got a chance to win now, you play the hand and you take a hit if you think that there's a card that's going to help you. And Tony Machuca, the Twins, who are rebuilding, have a pretty darn good starting pitcher who's in the final year of his contract. Not the greatest personality in the world, but he has, over the course of his major league career, been an above average major league starter by just about any measure. 2-time Gold Glove winner, 2-time All-Star award. You can see he's in the final year of his contract. He's going to be a free agent after this year and presumably make a ton of money. Great stamina, really good at holding runners on. 3 above average to excellent pitches, so his stuff is really good. His control is pinpoint. Not the greatest movement in the world, so he does give up some home runs. But he's an Iron Man as far as his injury proneness. And Heriberto Rosales, our number 5 starter this year, has just really not been good. He's been the problem for us, without a doubt. You can see Rosales, a 6-6 record, but a 5.91 ERA. The rest of our starters have done pretty well, but the opportunity to potentially move Rosales into the bullpen and bring on another frontline starter when we're trying to get to the playoffs. And obviously, if we get to the playoffs, we want to try to win it all. Machuca is about the best starter who's out there. It's not costless for us. We have to give up first baseman Jerry Smith, who's a potentially major league average-ish hitter, probably a little below average at the major league level. First baseman, not a big loss. Luis Camacho, who's a left fielder, was a scouting discovery back in 2037. Not the worst prospect in the world, but certainly not someone that we can't live without. And then Keon Smith is the one that hurts the most. This is a fourth-round draft pick from us last season. Great personality, obviously in the early stages of his development. He hasn't pitched well in rookie ball this year, but certainly looks like someone who could be a fourth or fifth starter if he fully develops, and with the good work ethic that he has, very well may fully develop. But a fifth starter 4 or 5, 6 years from now for a top of the rotation pitcher who can help us over the next 2+ months as we try to get this team into the playoffs is a deal that we've got to make. Like I said, we can't even sign scrubs to extensions right now because our salary is expected to be about $98 million next year, which we clearly don't have capacity to have on the books unless we really pull back our player development and scouting budgets significantly, and then move on from some of these arbitration eligible players most likely. So who knows what this roster is going to look like next year, which is why we've got to go for it when we've got the chance this year. So we are going to make a monster trade, bring on one of the top starting pitchers, if not the best starting pitcher available, and Tony Machuca. Welcome to Pittsburgh. The fans are excited by that, so even a nice bonus on top of him being an excellent pitcher, got a nice bump in fan interest. Hopefully that'll help the attendance a bit going forward, help the revenue going forward, and at least ensure that we get a decent bump in our budget next year. Probably not going to be enough to keep all the players on the roster, and probably not going to be enough to have that $95-ish million payroll next year that we're on pace for. But as I said, we will deal with the ramifications in the offseason. Right now we are committed to trying to make a run at it with these Pirates here in year 4 of our tenure as general manager of the team. And it's a bit of a hard decision to decide who we're going to send down or get rid of to open up the spot in our rotation. Andy Ochoa's had a brutal year with a 5.86 ERA, but certainly has been a very good reliever for us in the past. Profiles is a good, solid major league pitcher, not even 26 years old. I don't think we're going to send him down. Heriberto Rosales has had a tough year, but he has been a solid starter for us in the past. Never really worked out of the bullpen for us. Could be interesting to see what he does there. And then Omar Gaona is just someone as a lefty specialist that we just don't use that often, and he really hasn't been that effective in that role. He does have one option year left, I guess, as a 29-year-old. Maybe he refuses the assignment, but I think I'm leaning towards sending Gaona down, and then that does hamper us a bit, leaves us with just Gonzalez as a left-hander out of the rotation, and then Arenales as our only left-hander out of the pen. But I'm just looking for the best pitchers right now, so we are going to see if we can demote Gaona, and he refuses to be demoted, so I had a fear that would happen. We're obviously going to find a spot for Machuca. I'll give it some thought. Rosales has 2 option years left. He may refuse it as well. Issue with Rosales is that he's going to be a free agent, and it's conceivable since his demand has come down. He was looking for $7 million a year at the start of the season. Now he's only looking for $2 million a year. As I mentioned, we can't even make an offer to him at that level, which is kind of pathetic. Or else I would have already locked him up. So I do worry if we send him down, that's going to perhaps make him less interested in signing with us for a couple $1 million a year extension. I think he certainly could be slotted back in as our number 5 starter next year. And then there's Ochoa, who has 3 option years left. He's only going to be in arbitration next year, so we can have him back if we want him back. So I guess he would be the easiest to send down, but I think he's a better pitcher than Rosales. So we'll try to send Rosales down. And he accepted the demotion like a man. Thank you, Heriberto. Hopefully you can get yourself straightened out down there. We'll see you again in September, maybe. Bring up Machuca and see what our pitching staff looks like. And we've got the 2 Tonys on top now. Machuca slotting right in at the top of our rotation ahead of Tony Santana, followed by Gotti, Gonzalez, and the rookie Longoria, who's now 6-1 with a 3.20 ERA. So I don't think we've got another move in us at this point. But I feel like that was a big step in the right direction of ensuring that this team gets into the playoffs. And another week in the books here on Monday, July 29th. Good news is that we're only half a game out at this point. Tied for second or tied for third with the Cubs, depending on how you look at it. St. Louis has been playing real well. The Cubs have been struggling. We've been doing pretty well. And you can see that the Cubs, Nationals, and our Pittsburgh Pirates are all tied for the second and third wild card spots right now. So we are absolutely right in the mix. I'm going to take a look and see if there's anyone else available on the trade block that looks interesting. Got a nice boost in attendance the last few games with the addition of Mr. Machuca, who was good in his first start for us. 2 earned runs over 8 innings pitched, even though he wasn't involved in the decision. I don't think we've got another move in us because I just don't think there's anyone else that interesting out there that's going to be a difference maker. But clearly, if there was a bat that I thought could help, now would be the time to try to get them on board. And I think we do have another deal in place as we are going for it this year. We can bring on the left fielder Juan Canseco, who I know does not look all that incredible. Good personality, got a little bit of speed, good defensive outfielder. Has been, over the course of his career, a pretty productive offensive player. But he's fragile. And he's making big money, although we have set up a deal where the money-rich Dodgers are willing to retain the vast majority of his contract, which is huge for us. The reason we're thinking about bringing him on board is that he's a left-handed bat, and quite honestly, the one left-handed bat that we've had on our bench this year, Andres Mendez, just doesn't do anything for us. He hit .251 last year when at least he had 32 doubles and 12 homers. This year he's got the batting average up to .255, but only 7 doubles and 1 home run. He's got no speed. He's horrible defensively. He was a number 1 pick of the Pirates back the year before, or maybe 2 years before we started this playthrough, and was once viewed as one of the top prospects in baseball. But he's got 2 option years left, and if we can bring on Mr. Canseco, I think we've got to do that. Now, I don't think Canseco starts for us unless he gets into a DH kind of role, or maybe he moves, I guess theoretically, and you can probably hear my dog shaking herself in the back. That's what that weird noise is. Maybe he moves Perkins into a DH role. I don't think he's going to take over at center field for Herrera. But but he gives us another professional bat, which we could use as we try to get this team into the playoffs and then see what kind of damage we can do in the playoffs. And then honestly, with the Dodgers keeping as much of his contract as they are, we do have him for next year for not a ton of money, like $800,000 out of the Pirates payroll, which could be big for us. So I don't love that he's fragile. He's not a great hitter, but he does have some power, which we could use, a little bit of speed, which we could use, and he's good defensively, which we could use. It's not painless to pick him up. We have to give up right fielder Jordan Matute, scouting discovery back in 2036. Good personality and incredibly versatile defensively. Just don't think he's ever really going to be a major league hitter. He's never going to be anything, in my view, than fourth or fifth outfielder or a utility infielder. Bartholomeus Cone is an interesting prospect. He was our number 10th round draft pick last year, but he really profiles as a reliever in the majors. 19 years old, has not impressed in rookie ball so far. Not a real big-time prospect. And then center fielder Julio Leyba. He's an interesting prospect. He was a scouting discovery from back in 2036. Certainly looks like he could be a decent major league hitter. This year we've split him between A and high A, hit 319 in A ball, 354 in high A. Again, a best case scenario, though, I think he's a fourth or fifth outfielder with some position versatility on a good team. So if we can pick up a major league outfielder for the next season and a half at very little out-of-pocket cost as far as salary, and it lets us improve our team right now by sending Andres Mendez down to the minors, I think it's a deal we have to make. So we are going to go ahead and bring on Mr. Canseco. And it does look like this move will help us defensively, as Juan Canseco is going to become our left fielder, batting eighth for us. That moves Alex Perkins, the rookie, into a DH role against right-handers, and it actually means that he's not playing against left-handers, which is fine. We've got Jose Cuevas, who we brought up a while back, who you can see is hitting 340 at the major league level. So Alex Perkins, who's probably going to be in contention for Rookie of the Year. You can see hitting 271, 21 homers, 56 ribbies. We'll get a little bit less playing time, but still going to be in the lineup against right-handers, which is where he's most effective. And as I talked about, I think although he's got a cannon for an arm, Canseco is got better range and a much better error rating and still a pretty solid arm. So it does upgrade our team defensively. So we may want to think about moving Isaiah Hill to left field. I think that's actually the way to play this. Isaiah Hill should be our left fielder, even though he's been a right fielder since he came up. And Canseco is a... Yeah, Canseco's a better outfielder with a little bit better arm. So we are going to try to make that change. And interestingly, we did, change Isaiah Hill's position to left and Canseco's position to right. And interestingly, we're going to be playing Perkins in right. I think our manager likes his gun as far as an outfield arm there. I don't know if I love that, but then Canseco against left-handers will be in right field. And as you can see, Isaiah Hill has now moved to left field against both. At some point, I may think about overriding Perkins being our right fielder, as I do think that Canseco is better defensively. But given that Canseco is fragile physically, I don't want to push things with him. Also going to kind of just update his strategy settings from the neutral that they were when he came over, and then also bench him when he's fatigued, since we do have some depth in the outfield, and I don't want to take a risk of him experiencing a long injury, given that we are in a playoff push right now. So a couple of big trades for the Pirates over this last week in July, bringing on Machuca to bolster our starting rotation, and now Canseco to hopefully help our offense. As of the time both of those deals are done, we are half a game out in the division, and we are tied with two other teams for the second and third wild card spots. So if we make the playoffs, these trades were successful. If we don't make the playoffs, these trades were not. It's as simple as that. And as we move to the trade deadline, we won yesterday against Tampa. The team is healthy at the major league level. You can see we've got a decent amount of injuries in the minors, but even that's not a incredibly large list. But have not had any real major injury issues this season, fortunately. As the month nears an end, we're still half a game out behind the Cardinals. The Cubs did play a game when we didn't, and they lost, so they're a game behind now. So we are in the second wild card spot right now, but you can see it's very competitive. There are six teams competing for those three wild card spots. Six teams within 3 games of the wild card at this point. So it's going to be quite a battle because there's also 3 teams within 1 game of the NL Central. So it's going to be quite an interesting push for the playoffs here, and we will see how the Pirates do in that quest in our next episode. We're having a nice bounce back season from the disappointment of last year. The goal is to get into the playoffs, and after the disappointing 0-3 loss in the NLDS when we had home field advantage in the 2039 playoffs, our second year of this playthrough, the goal is certainly going to be to win a playoff series. And clearly, if we win a playoff series, we're going to want to win it all. And with the trades we've made, we are definitely playing to try to win it all the year the best we can with the number 29 budget in baseball and the number 29 player payroll. And we'll see how it all turns out in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.